Could the Southeastern Conference put on its own national championship game? That is something that's popping up lately. And well, we've got a couple things to talk about with it. I mean, lately we have seen the SEC um, stage its own national championship game. Pick up DAWGSTRUCTION. The link is down below. Make sure you're getting it. 80 pages hardcover. But I mean, this discussion is there's a couple of things going here at once, which is that the SEC is obviously has expanded to Texas and Oklahoma. You've got 16 teams. You are missing Ohio State, Clemson, and Miami. I think, and Florida State are the only teams that won the national championship this century that would not be in the SEC. Excuse me, in USC. So the bulk of the national champions would all be in one conference. Okay, that's one part of this. The second part is just Greg Sankey's frustration with the other leagues in that they are not expanding the playoff. Um, I think what people don't realize is that um, the playoff will end. And the question is, what will happen after the end of the playoff? We can go back to the BCS. We can go back to the alliance before that, with the Bowl Alliance, or we can go back to where conferences just put their teams into their particular bowls. The Southeastern Conference has had a long-term agreement since the 70s with the Sugar Bowl. They could send their champion to the Sugar Bowl to take on any team. Or the Sugar Bowl could be the terminal point for a four-team Southeastern Conference playoff that starts in early December uh, with a determination, perhaps two games on the same day, perhaps in different cities, one in Dallas, one in Atlanta, where two teams from the league, excuse me, four teams in two games determine a semifinal, and then the final is either on New Year's or the first Monday after New Year's, in between before the NFL's playoff games. That can be the national championship insofar as the Southeastern Conference is concerned. Or the SEC could say to everybody, hey, we're going to determine our champion. Our champion will play whoever your champion is. And that champion can be the ACC, the Big Ten, what's left of the Big 12, or essentially what's left of the Pac 12. Um, it sounds bizarre, doesn't it? Well, I can assure you in 1998, when a 14 playoff would have sounded bizarre. But Greg Sankey's frustration is justified here because what's going on is the SEC again doesn't really care. These two teams have played for the national championship multiple times since 2017. They have played each other twice for the national championship in a 5 season period. Okay, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. And 18, Alabama played for the national championship. In 19, LSU played for the national championship. In 20, Alabama played for the national championship. The SEC in 5 years has had, I think it's uh, eight league members, eight different teams, seven different teams, excuse me, play in a 5 year period for the national championship. They are perfectly comfortable leaving the national championship as is. In that time, only one program outside of the SEC has won the national championship. The SEC is perfectly fine with the way things are. They will continue moving it the way that it is. But they don't have to do that if they have expanded and they want the playoff to expand. They're not saying that out loud, but they think that's probably the best way to do it. It would be a 12-team playoff broken down the way that seems pretty evident to do. But um, it looks like that's not going to happen. It's certainly not easily going to happen. And Greg, you can tell that Greg's frustration level is officially he's exhausted. I mean, and that's why, when you are the most powerful person in collegiate sports, and you are probably, I would say, the third most powerful commissioner in all of sports behind the NBA and the NFL, and the NFL and then the NBA, and then Greg Sankey. I don't know if I wouldn't put the France family and NASCAR in front of them. I certainly wouldn't put um, the NHL in front of the SEC, but um, he is dictating the future of college sports. Greg Sankey. Not so far after him is Gene Smith up at the. Oh, I said Gene Smith. I misspoke. That's the athletic director at Ohio State. He's pretty big deal too, but he is not the commissioner of the league. The commissioner is Kevin Warren. I misspoke. Said Gene Smith, who is very powerful, perhaps the most powerful athletic director, quite frankly. But until Warren and the rest of college football kind of gets on board, well, it's really going to be the Big Ten. The ACC doesn't matter in this. The Pac-12 is a very outside player. The Big 12 does not matter in this. This is about what the future holds for the two biggest and best conferences in college football, which are the Big Ten and the SEC, and not in that order necessarily. You will see a consolidation of teams. The Big Ten right now is at 14 teams. The SEC will be at 16 briefly. You have a couple of teams sprinkled here and there, Miami, USC, Notre Dame. Those schools will have to be incorporated into whatever this Super League will be in the future. Then you will see a true playoff, and there will be some things that have to be jiggled a little bit along the way. But the SEC, until that happens, can do whatever it wants to do. Right now, it is committed to the 14 playoff until the 14 playoff doesn't exist anymore, and that time is coming. That the playoff will not exist in 2026. It's going to be gone, and that's what I wonder is if folks realize really that the playoff will be gone at the conclusion of the 2024 season. Um, is it 2024 or 2025? Um, there will not be through the playoff will remain at 4 through the 2025 season. So 2026, it's not going to be there. Well, guess what happens in 2025 for sure? Texas and Oklahoma coming to the SEC. So you got a real logjam in this league starting in 2025 if there's not an expanded playoff. You know, Greg can say um, Greg can say that the league is perfectly happy to stay at 4, but I think they would prefer a true playoff form that would allow, for instance, Texas, Alabama, and Georgia to all be in the playoff. A 12-team playoff with 3 SEC teams might be low in the future, but it's still you're never going to get 3 into a 4-team playoff. We've seen multiple times where the SEC has gotten 2 in, and guess what? Every single time that's happened, the SEC has won. Although almost every other time the SEC has won, if we're being honest. So only 3 teams, Ohio State and Clemson, twice have won it outside of the SEC teams. Everybody says, "Oh, it's all Alabama." Shit. The last 3 national champions from the SEC include 1 national championship from Alabama, not 3. So this is a problem for college football, and I think that the Big Ten shouldn't want to get left behind. I think that power schools in the ACC, if there's anything that exists like that anymore, Notre Dame, Miami, and Clemson, they need to leave that league. I mean, I hate to be that way, but you don't want to get stuck left outside the church, not even just at the altar. They're not going to be inside the church. So it's a real problem. But could the SEC determine its own national champion? They sure could.